Hi everyone, I'm Divya and this is Uplift, a show where you'll meet everyday women being everyday phenomenal. And my today's phenomenal guest is my good friend Rachel. Hi Rachel.
Hello Divya.
How's it going?
So well, so glad to be here.
Welcome to my show.
Thank you.
You were one of the first people I thought of to invite on my show.
Well, thank you.
Because you were very passionate about a lot of things that we're going to go into today. But I would just like to talk for a second about how we met.
Yes.
So I used to work for Rachel a few years ago. It was not very long. It was maybe a year and a half,
Yes.
right? But in that short amount of time, you left such a positive impact on my life. Primarily, your work ethics are just excellent. I feel like nobody was able to match to your work ethics. And the most important part was, I think, and it still resonates with me, and I try to embody that in my today's professional work and personal, is how do you uplift and care for other women around you,
Right.
And really lift each other up, because if we're not going to do it, then who's going to do it, right?
Right.
And
Agreed.
you've always shown that to me with your actions and just when we have conversations. So I really, really appreciate what you've done for me in my life and my growth. So do you want to talk about just how do you do that? How do you, did you wake up one day and say that I'm going to do this? Were you always like that? You're a very positive person anyway. So I know that some of it has to be in your DNA, but I'm sure some of it was cultivated over time.
Yeah.
So do you just want to tell me and my viewers and listeners, how did you come about it?
Yeah. So, and actually, it's so great to hear that I had a really positive impact on your life, because I loved the time that we worked together. We were an all-female team. I had two women reporting to me, and I think that was the only time that I may have been on an all-female team. And to answer your question, though, exactly. I've always been a positive person, and I've gone through a lot of changes in my life. I think if someone had told me that at 50, I'd be where I am now. I've traveled the world, and it's just you never know where life's going to take you. So I think while I have had that positivity from day one, I think the fact that I've led kind of an unconventional life has really made me realize that, it doesn't matter what life throws at you. You can always be positive. So when I found myself in the role where we worked together, as I said, I think that was the first time where I was really leading women. I'd been in a lot of roles where I was an individual contributor, and I think I really relished that fact. And part of it is, I think I had great role models in my mother and my sister. And so I had a lifelong of feeling like I had two mothers, and I think I kind of wanted to share that with others. And so, at work, one of the things that really makes me be positive is having the impact on folks like you, because when I was in my younger roles, I was, I started as a math major, and then I, went on to more technical careers. There was always a lot of men. I didn't have a lot of women to show me the ropes. And even when I went back to business school, I thought to myself, I'm going to go and I'm going to get this bigger picture of, what the working world is like. But I still didn't. And I felt like I wish I'd had someone who would have shown me what it's like, to be a leader, to be a mentor, to how to navigate work politics or how to navigate life. And I felt like I didn't really have that. I had that in my personal life, but maybe not so much in my work life. And so I think that's one of the things that, I strive to do in both work and personal life. So it's just wonderful to hear that, I had that impact. And one story I did want to share, I was telling Divya before this started, I love that she got to interview me, because I feel like that's really important, for building a team. It's like, you're going to be working for me. I'm going to be your boss, but do we work well together? So I think we kind of uplifted each other in some ways.
And I loved her when I interviewed her. She was great. And I think I saw myself being a leader that you were. And when you left the organization, I feel like my growth never stopped. And I always took that piece with me to say that, how do I include everybody? How do I become more inclusive? How do I make other women and people around me feel more like they belong?
Right.
And how do we all grow together? And until then, I feel I didn't have that. So I really, really thank you for that. So do you want to talk a little bit about how do you motivate yourself? You have a very important job. You have to be present. You have to work long hours, and even in your personal life, right? I mean, how do you just go, go, go? And what advice would you give other women who might be struggling with managing a lot of like, work-life balance type of flexibilities? Yeah.
And as I said earlier, I have always been a positive person, so I feel like I'm lucky in that respect. But there have been times, when that positivity has been challenged. And I think, some of the things that, I try to impart on others that, they can do is always try to find the positive. I know we're going to talk about my experiences living in Nicaragua later on during this podcast, but one of the things when I would have a really tough day there is at the end of every day, think of 3 things that were good that day. And if you can do that, you can make it through to the next day. So honestly, that's really one of the things that I do. The second thing that I tell a lot of my friends is, it's okay to say no. I feel like some women think they have to say yes to every single thing, and you do not, and I think I've realized that the older that I get, your time is very valuable and you have to determine what's important to you.
Right.
So I know for me, if I'm going to make it through those long days of work, especially because I actually do a lot of webinars and podcasts too, and I feel like I always have to be on. And then once we're back from COVID, I'll have to be going and presenting at conferences, is to make time for yourself and don't be ashamed of that. I did yoga before you came over this morning because I think that just, it centers me, it grounds me, and you don't have to do yoga to be that way. I know some people, they're not into that.
Right?
Whatever works for you. So get up every day, and even though I feel lucky that I have this positive spirit, I tell people, it's a choice too. You can get up, and it is easy for me to say, but you can get up every day and you choose to have a positive attitude, because sometimes I'll get up on a Monday morning after a wonderful weekend and I don't want to go to work, but I tell myself I'm going to have a positive attitude, and it really makes all the difference.
So I do want to talk a little bit about the hard day part of it. But before that, I would just like to, I just recently heard, because it just melds so well with what you just said, is you said at the end of the day, you look at your day and say that, hey, what were the 3 positive things that happened? And you carry that with you versus all the stresses of the day, right? And then I heard last week I was talking to a friend, and she was talking to one of our other common friends. And she used to be a top executive at one of the companies, and she retired early. So they were talking on one of their trips, and she said, she's like, okay, how do you manage like your time? And she said at the beginning of the day, I always look at what are the top 3 things that I want to get done today. Like, what are my major 3 battles that I want to win today? And I think that just goes so perfectly well with what you just said. So women think alike. It's like, what are you going to do in the morning? And take only positives away with you. That is so amazing.
And you're not going to be able to avoid the negative, but I think if you, put it into that perspective, and honestly, a lot of what we have, if you put it into the global perspective, all these little things, they just don't matter. I like to say, I put it in a bubble and I let it float away, because some things you do just have to let float away in order to make it through the day. So.
That's awesome. So do you want to talk a little bit about how do you deal with like a hard day? Do you have people you talk to? Is it your like way of like doing yoga and meditation and say that, okay, this is my Zen moment? And what advice would you give other women to like deal with it? Because I feel we may be in a position of privilege where we have baggage, we don't have baggage. We have work flexibility, we don't. So how do we generally cope, and what do you do to cope with it with a hard day?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, a lot of it for me is taking that time for myself, whether that's going on a walk or doing yoga. Honestly, one of the things that I found recently that really makes me happy is if something is stressing me out at work, we all are working from home. I was working from home a lot before this, but I missed that one day a week I was going into work. So it's like, how can I recreate, something like that where I'm getting out of the house? And sometimes I just have to leave in the middle of the day and, mark my calendar off. I will block off time on my calendar so no one puts an invite on there. And then I go for a walk and I listen to my favorite podcast or my favorite music.
Yeah.
And then I come back feeling so much better. I do have women that I reach out to, close friends. I am one who still calls her mom all the time for advice. So I think, lean on people. But you can vent your frustrations. Have somewhere where you can go and vent them, and step away. I mean, stepping away is a beautiful thing. And for me, that's, getting outside or going to yoga, to deal with things. So.
Yeah. And you also love to walk so much. My goodness. She walks everywhere. That's crazy.
I walked to yoga this morning. I used to walk to work when we worked together, and it was like a 45-minute walk each way, but I did it even on days when it rained. But honestly, I feel like that is my time to like gear up for the day and then wind down at the end of the day. Otherwise, I may not have that time, especially if we're super busy. So,
right. So I don't want to talk. I don't want to get into like the dark side of the pandemic, but I feel for a lot of people over the last year and a half, it has been a time of just spending time with yourself, which means that you're automatically going to self-reflect, and just. I feel a lot of people have had clarity on what were things important to them, or at least what they perceived as important to them are not as important anymore. So has there been a moment of clarity for you to say that, okay, I don't need these things in my life, but these are the things that I want to go after because you have another long journey ahead of you once we're past the pandemic. And how would you like to like spend your time better, and just kind of not change who you are, because you should never change who you are, but some changes that you would like to bring from what you've seen in the past like year and a half?
Yeah, I know so many people have been going through a lot of things, and we touched a little bit. I don't know if we touched on the travel part yet, but obviously I'd lived out of the country, but I've also traveled a lot as well. And last year there was no travel, and, I work in the travel industry. And so, it was really kind of like the bottom of all of that. And I really did, for me, even being a very positive person, I had to reassess, wow, without travel, who am I? Because I was always looking forward to my next trip. Loved to explore other cultures. And really, even when I would go on a work trip, there was just a few days, I would add on a few days for myself, because I feel like it's really important to, learn more about the places that you go. And so I went through this period of, well, who am I without travel? But you know what it made me realize, and, I've always been pretty close. I do have a close circle of friends here because I've been in this area for a long time, and, my sister's nearby, my mother's not too far away. So reconnecting with them has been wonderful, and actually really, appreciating what I have here. I think I was always looking forward to my next trip.
Yeah.
But now it's like, wow, I'm decorating my condo more, and and my
very good.
and my boyfriend has gotten me going on, like, now we drive and we go camping because that's what you can do now.
Were you a camping person before?
I'd been camping, but I wasn't super big on camping. But he's really gotten me into it, and so now
are you camping or are you glamping?
It's kind of glamping. But
okay, that's what
he has a camper van, but we do have the campfire, and we do cook outside. But I realized I do love to travel, but what I really love is being outside and in the fresh air and doing active things. And he loves to do active things as well, like yoga and hiking. And he owns he builds bikes, and so he built me a bike, and we've been cycling together. And so it's like, wow, it's like this whole newfound thing. It's like I'm still traveling, but now I'm maybe exploring. We went down to Clifton Forge, Virginia, last week.
Clifton's beautiful.
Yes, and so it's like things that I probably you don't always appreciate in your backyard. So it's kind of that rediscovery. It's like I can still travel, but I can do it, within the bounds of what's allowable now. But that's not to say that I didn't travel, because I did go. I've had for 20 years, I've been wanting to go to Hawaii, because I was supposed to go for a work trip 20 years ago.
I remember that.
And I didn't go because it was right after 9/11. And now that I was turning 50, I was like, I have to go for my 50th birthday to the 50th state in the U.S. And I did. And then we also did Costa Rica. So we're slowly getting back into it, but I realized you can you can find the things that are really important to you. And yes, travel was important to me, but having the close relationships with my family and friends is as well. And it's like, how can I, enhance those and still do a little bit of travel? And that's what's really found brought me joy and helped me come out of this whole COVID thing. But I got to say, I am very excited that real travel, like international travel,
it's opening
is coming back. So so
me too. So are you the type of person who keeps a list of all the countries that you've been to?
I do, and I was hoping to get to 50 before 50, and I did not make it because COVID.
What are you at?
I don't think I recorded the last few, so I'm probably in the high 40s now, 45, between 45 and 50.
I've been to 4.
Well, it's really funny though, because my boyfriend Mike, it was in the military, so we always love to play the game. Like, we'll say somewhere one's been and the other hasn't been, and I think he's done more than I have, because in the military you can travel the world, but there's always more to see. Like, even obviously there's still a couple states that I haven't been to, so I feel like. And in your own backyard, as I said, I went to Clifton Forge. So I think you can always find something to explore and something new to appreciate.
Well, what got you started? And what got you hooked to traveling?
What's so funny is, I think it was funny thing I always tell my friends is, have you ever heard that little poem when you're growing up, like Monday's child is fair face, Tuesday's child's full of grace, something, it goes that way. And then Thursday's child has far to go. And I was born on a Thursday. And I feel like the first illustration I saw of that was some little kid sitting on a suitcase. I'm like, wow, someone who's going to travel the world. And so we never traveled growing up. We maybe drove down to Nag's Head, and that was fine, and it was lovely. But I think it always gave me that itch to travel. And when I finished business school and I moved here in 1999, I took a job at U.S. Airways because I wanted to travel. And I was like, oh, free travel on an airline. Yes, sign me up. And really, I think it was all those years of never really going anywhere. And now, like the past 20 years, it's been, where can I go? So, and now it's kind of become, my thing, like new places to explore.
Have you, so you lived in Nicaragua, and I would love for you to talk about that.
Yeah.
Have you lived in any other country?
I have not.
Okay.
But my goal is, I do have my Irish passport because my mother's family's from Ireland, working on the Canadian passport because they moved from Ireland to Canada to the U.S.
Wow.
So I should have gotten that one a while ago, because now the process has been really backed up. But yeah, so Nicaragua was the only place I lived, but now maybe the EU someday.
Yeah.
Because I have that Irish passport, but Nicaragua was an amazing experience.
How did you end up going there?
Well, it's really funny. As a friend had recommended it just to travel to, it was like a great, inexpensive place to go and explore, and it has volcanoes and beaches and jungles and just a lot of amazing things to see, and the people are friendly. So I went there on vacation, met a lot of expats. And at the time, I was working for a consulting company, and all the expats from the U.S. and Canada and Europe there were like, well, why don't you move on down? And I thought, well, hey, let me ask the consulting firm I'm working for if I can. And they let me teleccommute. So before, telecommuting was huge. This was back in 2008. So packed everying up, gave my cats to my neighbors, took my clothes and my laptop on down.
What was that time period?
I think just decided in like 2007 and then moved in 2008.
Okay.
So pretty much sold everything that was in my home and rented my home out and moved on down. And it was great because not only did I get to work full time, still had all my consulting clients. A lot of them didn't even know I'd left. I still had my local area code with voice over IP. So I worked for them full time, but I volunteered with the women's shelter.
Yeah.
I volunteered with animal rescue. Built a home out of recycled shipping containers, and just really became a part of the community. Lived in San Juan del Sur, which is a very small town on the west Pacific coast of Nicaragua, near the border of Costa Rica. And I just felt like, this is so much more than just travel. It's like you're really getting to know and become part of the community.
Right.
And my Spanish got really good. It's rusty again, but it's just a life experience I wouldn't trade for anything. Yeah, was it tough? Yes. But now, do I know how to start a generator? Yes. And can I live without electricity? Yes. Do I ever I don't go to like big box stores anymore because I like to buy what I can. I like to buy from mom and pops. I know that gets harder and harder these days, but I had reverse culture shock when I came back, but I think you get some great experiences that you take with you for the rest of your life. And honestly, that's where I learned yoga as well, because every expat down there was doing yoga. I said, okay, well, I guess I'm doing yoga now. And then I'm like, where's yoga been all my life? It's just
in India.
Exactly. In India. But what's so funny is you can start. That's another thing I want to tell people. I didn't start yoga till I was 37, and now I've been doing it for 13 years. It doesn't matter how,
you're extremely
late.
fit.
And yoga will do it. But it doesn't, it doesn't have to be yoga, but that's to say it's never too late. I take inspiration from my mother on that as well. She went back. She'd gotten her nursing certificate in the 60s, but she went back and got her undergraduate degree in nursing, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and then went back and got her Master's of Public Health. And it's never too late. And she got her master's when I got my master's.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I love to convey. It's never too late to try something that you've always wanted to do, or to change how you're living your life.
That's amazing. And with the mom and pop, supporting local businesses, small businesses led by women, and people of color is so important. Please do that. And thank you for doing that. So we're traveling, then what are your plans over the next, I know you're the person who plans way ahead. So tell me some of our plans.
Yeah, I mean, I do try to plan.
Not our plans.
You are welcome to come, Divya.
Thank you.
But, right now, so the things that I have on the books, as I said, I already did Hawaii and Costa Rica. This year. I do have a trip to Vermont that I'm very excited about this summer. I went to Vermont for the first time last summer to go hiking. This summer, my boyfriend's in a bike race, so we're going to take his camper up there. He does a lot of bike racing.
But motorbike or?
Mountain biking. Mountain biking.
Gotcha, okay.
So sometimes road racing, but mostly mountain biking. And so we're going to go up to Vermont, and I can work a little bit from there, and also, enjoy the hiking and biking, etc. We're also trying to plan a trip to sometime in July or August, either Europe or Africa, because there's just a lot of amazing deals going on. Now, finding a place where neither of us has been is a little tough, because he's been a lot of places and I've been a lot of places. But there, obviously, we've both been to Northern Africa, haven't been to Sub-Saharan Africa. So that's what we're trying to plan next. Now, I am, I'd like to get back to Asia soon as well. Last year, right before COVID hit, I was supposed to go for work to Bangkok. And then I was going to, stay on and travel from there. Yeah. And then it got switched to Rome. And so I was going to go to the Amalfi Coast. But of course, that's right where COVID went to. But, those trips will be planned again in the future. It's never too late. Once again, I take inspiration from my mother as well, because she loves to travel and she's still doing it. And she's got all her trips, backed up that she's ready to do. But yeah, so definitely Vermont, and then either somewhere in Europe or Africa later this summer. So.
Are there places that you've been where you would want to go back, or some of your favorite places that you wouldn't mind saying okay, I've been, but I've explored everything and I want to go back?
Yeah. I mean, definitely one of them is New Zealand, because I went there. Luckily, I got to go for work. It's been 5 years ago. I got to do Australia, New Zealand. Australia was really brief. I was just in Sydney for a few days. But New Zealand, even though I was there a week and a half, it's never enough time. I mean, there's so much to explore. And what I love about the Kiwis is that because they're kind of isolated where they are, they've all traveled the world. I just loved talking to them and finding out where they've been. Some of them had been on longer road trips across the U.S. than I've been on. Yeah. And so, because they'll get 6 weeks of vacation.
Type of person?
Yes, if I have enough time, but I feel in the U.S. we never get 6 weeks of time to just road trip. But I would totally do that. But as I said, meeting other people and hearing their experiences and then getting motivated by that is what I love. And there's so much more of Asia to explore. I've only been to 4 or 5 countries in Asia. And so just, it's, there's so many places to visit.
Unless it's an RV, I can't sit in a car more than 5 hours. But then, you drive 5 hours and camp somewhere, and then you continue. I could do that, but I cannot do long road trips. That's just not me.
5 hours a day, that's perfect. And then you stop and you enjoy and you explore wherever you are. So
right. So outside of traveling, what is next in Rachel's journey? Where do you want to go? It doesn't have to be anything big or anything, but I'm sure everyone has a vision of where they would want to be 5 or 10 years from now. What's next for you?
Yeah, so I mean, some of the things near term is, as I said, my boyfriend just built me a new kind of, it's a gravel bike. So it's kind of you can do a little bit of off-roading. So I honestly am you know what? I've been doing yoga and hiking so long. I really want to try something new. And everybody knows how to ride a bike. So I've been trying to get better riding through my neighborhood, which is really hilly. And I want to take that on as my next physical challenge.
Wow.
Another personal challenge I've taken on is I just got elected to the board of directors here at the Condo Association where I live. So I really want to make an impact on,
That's awesome.
what we're doing in the whole like Tyson's area,
Yeah.
and what we're doing with the Condo Association. So that's really something I've taken on there. And honestly, I've after this whole COVID thing and with the not traveling, I have had this newfound interest in like all things local. So I've been planning all these great local things with my friends. Like last weekend, we went to Twilight Polo, which, I hadn't done in a few years. And it's just like rediscovering fun things. And tonight
That's not the same as the DC Polo Society. This is different.
No, this is
right?
out at Great Meadow Foundation.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
they do it every Saturday during the summer, and they have theme nights, and it's just a lot of fun. You don't have to know anything about polo, which I don't. It's just fun to like go out there and it's like, when am I ever going to head out to the Plains, Virginia, and just really continuing to explore all the cool areas that we have. I mean, we have so much cool stuff in the DC area that's close by, and so just really, appreciating that time I have with my friends here and kind of rediscovering now that everything's opening back up. So yeah, those are kind of the things that are that's kind of near term. Long term, as I said, who knows? I mean, my career, I'm really enjoying where I am. I'm looking forward to conferences starting back up so that I can go to these conferences and I can speak and I can explore more of the world. But as far as that goes, I don't know what's next. As I said, I could be living in the EU with my Irish passport. So that's another long-term goal. Or who knows? Maybe I'll be in an RV driving around the country in the next 5 years. But I like that.
As you're being spontaneous, which is great, right? That's awesome. Thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're gonna bring a guest next time on one of the future episodes where you have a shared connection with them. You are potentially inspired by them, by what they do and how you met. And the three of us are going to talk because you're going to be my co-host.
Great.
And I'm very excited.
Me too.
And that conversation is going to be very different than what we had just now. It's going to focus on both of you as friends and women. And just it's going to have multiple like shades and layers. So I'm very excited about that.
Me too.
Great. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and my podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.